Welcome back to Rise and Thrive Conversations for Greatness with me, John Merkus. After an awesome part one, we're diving even deeper in part two of our enlightening discussion on personal growth, motivation, and the secrets behind high-performance teams. Joined once more by the insightful Katie O'Keefe, we explore the dynamics of success in remote and hybrid working settings. If you thought part one was inspiring, part two will truly transform your understanding of teamwork and leadership. Let's embark on this journey of inspiration and success together. I'm interested about remote teams as well and how this, because that's been a big factor and impact out there in the workplace. I would imagine this kind of program transcends that or is inclusive of all that because it would have to be. But I'm really interested in your insights in that whole remote work situation and high-performing teams.
Yeah, I'm so glad you asked that. So one of the factors that we are measuring is a factor that we call team proximity, and that is how often and how many people in the team are located together physically. Now, in the context of when we started this work, we actually started the research in COVID when everyone was in lockdown, so everyone was remote. And then we've continued this work out of lockdown. We've got to do more analysis on this data yet, but what we are seeing as an initial trend is that teams that are located together more often perform better. So there is a relationship between the proximity of the team and how well we work together. And what those teams do better together is creative problem solving. So when you've got a problem that you need to solve and you need to explore different perspectives and look at different ideas and think about different options and solutions and make decisions together on those things are more effectively done physically located together.
Yeah.
And that finding from our data certainly isn't controversial or contradictory to anything else that's out there. I have seen quite a few things published recently that it looks to be 2 to 3 days a week together seems to be about the sweet spot when you look. So there's this kind of, increasing performance and then decreasing performance, or flattening at least. And so if you can be together 2 to 3 days a week, that seems to make a difference.
Right.
And that it's these kind of things that require us to be listening to each other, considering different ways of thinking, this kind of creative collaboration or creative problem solving appears to be done more effectively in person, which is not to say that it can't be done well in a remote setting. It means that we need to be much more conscious and deliberate about what are we trying to achieve in a hybrid setting, and how do we create the conditions that enable us to do that really well in a hybrid setting, rather than it being a bit of a lazy, let's all jump on a call and just do stuff.
Yeah, I'm pretty old school, but I'm glad to hear that there's also been proven by some research and some evidence that like you say, it can be done remotely, but what I'm hearing is it's best done in person when you can, and because you miss so many other cues if you're not in person. And, there's nothing like a few people standing around a whiteboard or have Post-it notes together and doing some things together. And like you say, you can use these digital tools to do that, but I don't think it's the same. Then I think, oh my God, I'm such a dinosaur. But it's just a feeling. It's a feeling as well. And, we're emotional beings. And if you get a good feeling collaborating with people in a room doing something, well, that's going to also enhance the creative process. And I know of organisations and have been in teams where they prescribe to be in the office for a certain amount of time. But the thing is, if your team is remote and you're on video calls anyway, but instead of home, you're in the office, there's nothing really to be gained.
Having done some work separate to teams, but really working with clients on how do we make hybrid working work, it's a challenge that everyone's facing. It's kind of, again, it's a bit of a no-brainer in that it's all about the context. And the context starts with, what is the work that we need to do, and how is that work done best? And so there's things that are better when we're together, and there's things that are done better alone at home. It's a nice rhyme. And so rather than having this kind of blanket, everyone's got to be in the office Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, everyone's got to be in the office 4 days a week, every whatever, it should be a question for teams to consider. What's the work that we need to do? When do we need to do that work? And therefore, where should we be to do that work? And then really intentionally thinking about purpose, really intentionally thinking about, I'm going into the office today. Why am I going into the office today? And what am I going to do with that time? Who am I going to meet with? I'm not just going to go into the office and sit at my computer and sit on Zoom calls and just do what I would do at home in the office. I really want to use that time intentionally. Or if I'm a team leader and I'm asking my team to come into the office on a Tuesday, what am I going to use Tuesdays for that's going to make that purposeful for people? Because I think what really frustrates people is this, like, there's no point. Like, I'm being pointlessly asked to put up with a commute, deal with the logistics of getting kids here and there and not being home for no purpose. That it's, just for some random reason. Oh, let's just be in the office. And then you start to feel frustrated and resentful that I've been asked to do all that.
You've hit the nail on the head. That's
Yeah.
exactly what it's like. And it can be a box ticker for some organisations because you've been asked to do it and you don't want to get in trouble, so you do it. But yeah, how about looking intentionally how we're going to use that time? It's like, okay, Bob, Mary and Sheila, love you to be in the office this Wednesday because the four of us are going to collaborate on this thing that we've been wanting to get together for. So we've got this presentation ready for this client or whatever it is.
Whatever it is. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
So having that purpose. I wanted to go back a little bit because when you were talking earlier, I've been noticing, how if you're going to buy a certain car or you're looking at it, you start seeing them everywhere.
Yeah.
Lately, what's been happening for me is I'm hearing a lot about accountability and having an accountability partner and not being kind of answerable, but having someone that has an interest in you achieving something and being able to interact with them. And that's what I was picking up earlier about what you were saying about you can stay for that 6-month period and help out if you want to. And then some people have thought they don't need that kind of accountability partner, for one of a better things, like, yeah, we'll do it for sure. Yeah, it's like going to the gym, right? Yeah, I'm going to go to the gym 3 times a week. And then you don't go. And then you ring up your personal trainer and say, how about we work out? And you're thinking, while you're there, you're thinking, I could be doing this without him there or her there, but I'm not going to do it unless I have that accountability. So I really like that part of the process, and it's just highlighting in my life lately that unless you're accountable to someone or for some reason, but for someone, it doesn't always happen.
And it's so funny, John. So for the listeners to this podcast, John and I, before we did this, I was like, John, would you like me to share with you the insights from the research, or should we just get into the podcast and see where it goes? And we're like, oh, let's just get into it. You would think I'd shared my research with John in him asking me that question about accountability, because one of the really interesting insights that's come out is the critical role of some team processes, and one of those processes is accountability. And so if I kind of come back to, teams are a system, and in a system you have inputs, process, outcomes. So our hypothetical model when we went into this work was teams are complex adaptive systems, and in complex adaptive systems you have inputs. Those inputs then transformed through processes in ways of working, and through processes you get outcomes. And in complex adaptive systems you get what's called emergent states or emergent properties. And that is, think of it as the sum of the whole is greater than the individual parts. So when, in the context of teams, when people work together, you feel things that are a result of the being together. They don't belong to you individually. So those feelings, or what we call emergent properties, those feelings are things like I feel included, I feel trust, I feel safe, I feel, this psychological safety, I feel energy and vibrancy in the team. So there's all these kind of emergent feelings that come from us working together. And I'll come back to accountability in a moment as a process. But one of the things that we really wanted to understand through this research is what is the relationship between outcomes and these feelings or emergent properties? Do those feelings drive outcomes? So, coming back to Lencioni's model, does it start with trust? Does trust drive team performance? Or is it actually that performance drives these positive feelings? And we've found through our data that it is performance drives these feelings, not the other way around.
Mm-hmm.
So, you have a series of inputs into the team, and those inputs include things that are internal within the team. So that's like your team charter. So why does the team exist? What are our goals? What are our expectations for each other? What are our roles and responsibilities? Who's in the team? That's a really important input. Who are the actual members of this team and what do they bring as an input? And then the other set of inputs are external inputs. So that's how do we fit within the broader organization? What's sort of teamwork within the organization like? How are we supported by the broader organization? So you've got these internal and external inputs to the team. And those inputs do indeed drive in a really important way the processes of the team. So, we've got to think about, and we're looking at 7 processes specifically, and that's where accountability fits. So, what's the process of accountability? What's the processes of inquiry? What are the processes of skill development? What are the processes of creative collaboration? So these are like our ways of working. How do we actually work together? And then you get your 3 outcomes. We achieve our goals, we work together effectively as a group, and individually, I have a positive experience. As a result of that, when those things are going well, you then get these positive feelings of we trust each other, we respect each other, we value our contribution, we feel included, we have a sense of shared identity, we get psychological safety, we're able to adapt to change. So all of these feelings emerge, and they emerge from the team achieving its outcomes. And so, it's the way I'm describing it is it's teams 101. It's back to basics. And I think what I see in the world of work is people getting themselves tied up in knots around how do we build psychological safety in teams? How do we build trust in teams? How do we build inclusion in teams? How do we build identity and belonging in teams? Like getting tied up in knots in these kind of amorphous emergent states. That's like, how do you define that? How do you build it? It's messy and it's complicated and it doesn't always work, and people start rolling their eyes at it. Rather than trying to worry about how you build those things, get back to the basics of why does this team exist? Why have we been created? What are our goals? What are the expectations we have for each other? And what are our roles and responsibilities in the team? Get that right, and then you will achieve your goals because you understand what you're doing and why you're doing these things together. And so you do those things. And then because you're achieving your goals, wow, doesn't this feel good? Oh my God, John is a great guy. I really trust John. He does what he said he's going to do and he gets his work done. And I say to people, trust is contextual. And I use the example, I trust my plumber to come to my house and fix my plumbing. I don't trust my plumber to look after my children. I don't trust my plumber to do my accounting and my finances. It's like, it's contextual.
Yeah, in the context of you got a leaky pipe, that works.
That works.
In the context of child mining, it doesn't work.
And I might think my plumber's a really great guy. And so again, you put this back into the work context. John, I might think you're a really great guy. I might know something about your life. I might know something about your upbringing. You might have been vulnerable and authentic with me, and I might think you're I might have a really warm place in my heart for you. But in the context of the work that we have to do together, you don't do what you say you're going to do. You're not
Mm,
honest with me. You don't
mm,
deliver. I don't
mm.
know if actually you have the capability to do on the team what you're here to do. Maybe I don't even actually know why you're on the team. So therefore, do we have this sense of shared trust, respect in the team?
Yeah.
No.
Yep. Yep. I think we've all worked with people like that, people that we like,
People
but
that we
then
like.
people that we don't think that they're doing what they need to be doing in the team.
And I think, and when I talk to leaders about this, they're kind of relieved because you, in a sense, we've kind of lost our way around work and teams exist to achieve something.
Mm,
Like, and a big part of my sense of satisfaction in my work and therefore my well-being comes from, do I feel like I'm achieving something meaningful in the
mm,
workplace? Now, if the team I work in, if it's not clear why we exist and what we're here to do,
mm.
how am I ever going to have that sense of achievement?
Yeah, and I was going to ask you if there's some things that you can tell us that teams can take away right now. And I think you've just nailed it
Yep,
when you said, "Why don't we get back to that 101?" Can
101.
you list those again so it's a bit of a
A bit of a
summary?
summary, yep.
So if you're in a team and you're thinking, I really want to make this team better, or I know that we can be better. How can we be better straight away?
Yep. Where to start? So teams 101, so think of it inputs, process, outcomes, and the inputs are internal and external. And so those internal inputs, that is like the teams 101, which is kind of your team's charter piece, is why does this team exist?
So the why,
The
yep.
what why, and it's like, and if you think about it, so few teams even consider that question. We just take it for granted that I've joined an organization and I'm in the sales team.
Mm,
But does the sales team ever sit down and say, why do we exist as a sales team? Not why do I exist individually, but collectively, why do
mm.
we exist as a sales team? And I find where this is missed the most is with senior leadership teams, because senior leadership teams again find themselves in situations where individually I'm responsible for a function in the organization, and I come to this table of people who are all responsible for their function, and we just update each other on what we're doing. And we
Mm,
call ourselves
mm,
a senior
mm.
leadership team, but we never actually ask the question, what's the purpose of this collective? And I ask my clients, what can this collective achieve together that you cannot achieve individually?
Oh, this is this is so good because I'm thinking about different examples where I've seen that happen before. So when you were saying about that's a good example with the sales team because I think everyone can relate to that whether they're in sales or not. Do you ever find that when they're going through the why that it gets a bit deep? Because in a sales team, you could say, well, our team is here to sell the product so the company can make a profit. That might not be that motivating, but it's a why,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a pretty black and white why. But do you find that sometimes people, and it might, if you're selling cochlear ear implants, your why in the sales team might be to make a world a better place.
Mm,
So,
mm.
so there's a different whys. Have you found those differences? And
I think there's a difference between team purpose and organizational purpose, and you want those things to be aligned. And so
right,
that's then when we talk about the external imports, it's the alignment from the team to the organization. But there's certainly, and again, then there's a distinction between purpose and goals. And so the purpose is
gotcha. Okay.
why do we exist as a team? The goals are, well, then what do we have to achieve in order to achieve that purpose?
Mhm.
When we do the assessment with teams, and this is always super interesting, we ask the team the question, we have a shared sense of purpose on this team, and people say they strongly agree or strongly disagree to that question. Most teams say they have a shared sense of purpose on the team. Most teams say they do. But then we ask them in an open answered question, describe the purpose of your team. And they have to type their
Yeah.
answers in.
Yep.
And without fail, there is no shared sense of purpose on that team when you actually ask individually people to describe what they see as the purpose of the team.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so it's absolutely fascinating when you play that data back to a team. Again, it comes back to the data on paper. If we only asked, we have a shared sense of purpose, we'd say tick, great. But because we ask this open-ended question, please describe, how would you describe the purpose of the team? We have this
Yeah.
fantastic data to say, well, you think you have a shared sense of purpose, but actually you're all thinking about this contextually slightly differently.
Yeah, it reminds me of steering committee teams where they don't necessarily know why they're there or have a shared sense of purpose.
Yeah.
And doing a questionnaire like you're describing would make a big difference.
So Teams
So we're talking
101,
about the why.
Teams 101.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Why? Then
Yep.
goals. So what do we have to achieve? Now, I mentioned earlier we've had, this trouble with teams on trying to get the KPIs. And so what we've reverted to is asking teams, we've got kind of 6 buckets of goals, if you like. So we're here to increase revenue, decrease costs, improve productivity, improve quality, improve customer satisfaction, or improve employee satisfaction. So we've got these 6 buckets of goals. And we say to the team members, the goals of this team are to pick all that apply. So, each team member says, well, I think this team exists to improve revenue and improve customer satisfaction. Again, what is incredibly interesting when you look at this data is almost in every team we've worked with, there is no agreement in the team on the goals of the team. That 3/4 of team members will say the team's there to increase revenue, or 3/4 of the team will say we're here to improve customer satisfaction. But not everybody thinks that. And so again, it becomes this really simple question to the team, well, what are we here to do? And then we can get into, so what are the numerics around that? And we explore, why do we have a different perspective on this? And this gets really interesting then particularly when you're looking at cross-functional teams. People come to a team with their hat on. So my existence is to help increase revenue. So therefore, I think this team is to increase revenue. And so then we have a conversation around, well, is that for you individually, or is that a shared goal for the team? And we get to kind of reconcile these conflicts between individual and team goals. So why do we exist? What are our goals? And then the third one is, what are our expectations of each other? And are we clear on our expectations of each other?
Because do you know the disappointment equation?
No.
Expectations without agreement equals disappointment.
Ah, I like that.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah, there you go.
There you go.
Yeah.
So we've got, why do we exist? What are we here to do? And our expectations of each other. And then the fourth part of that puzzle is our roles and responsibilities. So let's be clear from a membership point of view in the team. What role do we each play, and what are the responsibilities that we have? And so, it's like it's back to basics, Teams 101. And our data shows from a cause and effect, so this is not correlation, this is causation, that if the foundation of the team is established well, the team will achieve its goals, is more likely to achieve its goals. So this is that specific outcome of goal achievement. And this is the only factor that we're measuring at the moment that has a statistically significant positive relationship on goal achievement. So get the foundation of the team right. The second part of kind of back to basics, and this is, to be fair, this is probably more Teams 201 because this isn't something that we'd always consider. But from the inputs of the team, the other place to start then is, how does this team fit within the bigger picture? So is our team aligned? Is the purpose of our team aligned with the purpose of the organisation?
Yep.
Do we understand how we as a team contribute to the bigger picture? Do we feel as a team supported well by the organisation? And that includes, do we feel supported by the leaders? Do we feel systems and processes support the team? And this is always one that, is an area of concern for teams around systems and processes and incentives. And do we feel like we have good relationships with other teams? Do we have open and honest communication? Do we get what we need from other teams in the organisation? So, my advice to anyone leading a team is start there. Start with setting the foundation of the team internally
Yeah.
and add to that the external picture. Because the
Yeah.
really interesting thing with the external picture is that has a direct and positive influence on how satisfied I feel as an individual in the team.
Yeah.
So, this individual experience outcome is directly and significantly impacted by how I understand we fit within the bigger picture of the organization.
Wow. Thank you for that, because that's a really good place to start wrapping it up, because you've given us so much gold, really detailed information on research and teams and what it is to be in a team and what are some of the challenges of being in a team, the
Yeah.
individual in the team, the collective in a team of teams kind of situation. I've been personally be able to relate with a lot of the things you're saying, having been worked in teams for many, many years, and I hope our listeners can as well. I'm sure they. I don't think I hope. I'm sure they can, and because whether your team's a family, whether your team's a corporate team, whether you're in a small business, whether in your large business, it's all about teams, and information can also it's relatable as an individual as well. So
Yeah.
it's been absolute gold, and we could keep talking for hours and hours.
We could. There is just one little bow I need to
All
tie,
right, give us
John,
the bow.
which is the accountability bow, because
Yes.
that's where this kind of came from.
Yep.
Is that we have those inputs into processes then. And so what we're looking at is we're looking at 7 processes, and we're trying to understand of those processes what are most important. Now, what we understand is that the processes in the team have a direct effect on the group outcome. So this group outcome of how well do we work together as a group, and they have an indirect effect on the properties in the team, which is like, do we feel trust and inclusion? So processes are really important. Processes drive performance and they drive these properties. And 3 processes have come through as more important than the rest. And the first of those is accountability. So the process of once we've got the foundation in place, this is why we exist, this is what we're here to do, and these are the expectations that we have for each other. Let's hold ourselves to account for that. So individually and collectively, we're held to account for doing what we say we're going to do and delivering our results. The second process which has come through is really important is this creative collaboration, which is how do we disagree with each other, collaborate together creatively, seek out different perspectives, integrate those perspectives, come up with new ideas, care about each other when things are tough. So these people, people and problem solving kind of processes in the team. And then the third process that's come through is really important is then the structures around, do we have clear processes for how we make decisions? Do we have clear processes for how we're going to go about solving problems? Do we have clear processes for guiding the work of the team? So if you think about it, it's like, well, of course. So you think about it, and I really like the kind of the language around task work and teamwork. So task work is guiding the work of the team, holding each other to account, processes for decision making and problem solving. And then kind of the people side of the team is how do we collaborate together creatively? How do we look after each other? How do we ask for help? And those sorts of things. And so if you do those well, then you will get this combination of we're an effective group and we feel like we're an effective group, as well as we trust each other, we feel included, we feel safe, we feel belonging and identity.
Awesome, Katie. I think any team or organization that works with you is just going to skyrocket to success and high performance. I want to thank you for being so generous with your time and the information as well, because I know some of this is proprietary information that you spend a lot of time researching and making sure there's evidence and before you go out there and teach it. So I want to thank you for your generosity. How people are going to love what you were saying and go, I want to work with Katie, or I want to know more. What can they do?
What can they do? So the listeners, I think one thing that we didn't sort of make clear up front is that this is hot off the press. So We have literally in the last 2 weeks just finished the latest round of statistical analysis with Monash University. So we are partnering with Monash University on this work. I haven't published, or we haven't published any of this anywhere yet. This podcast is going to be the first kind of release of that on our website, which is www.structuredcreative.com.au. There will be links there to get into the team's data and information. And what I would love to make available to listeners is to do the assessment and to get a report from us at free of charge. So, we know that just the process of doing an assessment is going to lead to better team performance. And from our perspective, this is ongoing research. The more data we have, the more we can sort of draw new insights and understand different aspects of team performance. And so we would love to make the assessment available to your listeners at no cost. And so if they reach out to me directly at my email, which is katie@structuredcreative.com.au, we can set that up.
That's wonderful. And would you recommend, so for individuals do it, is it a case of as many people in that team doing it, or is it okay if it's like, I don't know if my team will do it, but I'll do it? Is that possible too? What's the best way?
Look, I think for a team to perform, the team need to do it together. And it needs to be something where we're all then thinking about things in a similar way. So all in.
Yep.
Look, if it was a team of 10 and we had 8 out of 10, that would be enough.
Yeah, great. Well, thank you for making that available, the Rise and Thrive Conversations for Greatness listeners. Katie, you're amazing. Keep being amazing. I know you will. I love the work that you're doing. It needs to be done, and I just wish you so much success. I hope you're so busy that you're making such a big influence. You're so busy that you need to clone yourself 25,000 times to get the word out there and to build more high-performing teams. Love to have you on the show again. There's plenty more to talk about. We'll do that. Thank you so much, Katie O'Keefe, for being on the show.
Thanks, John. Lovely to be back.
Thanks for joining us on Rise and Thrive Conversations for Greatness with John Merkus. Remember, you are loved, you are worthy, and you do matter. Embrace the journey of personal growth and motivation. Let's go out there and do something great. Follow or subscribe for more insights and inspiration every Tuesday. Until next time, stay awesome.